My daughter hadn't spoken to me in 30 years. Not a word, not a card, not even a sign that I still existed in her world. Then I won $412 million in the lottery, and suddenly her voice was on my phone, sweet as honey, inviting me to Thanksgiving dinner to meet the grandchildren she'd told were dead. She thought she was so clever, planning to manipulate a lonely old woman out of her fortune. But what I did at that dinner table shocked her, so completely that she tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. And that's when I played my final card, one that could destroy everything she'd built. If you want to know how a mother's love can turn into the perfect revenge, subscribe now, because this story will leave you speechless. The knife slipped from my trembling fingers and clattered onto the kitchen floor as I stared at the caller ID. Serafina. My daughter's name blazed across my phone screen like a ghost from another life. 30 years. 30 years of silence, so complete, I sometimes wondered if I dreamed her into existence. I let it ring 3 times before my shaking hand found the answer button. Her voice hit me like ice water in my veins. Hello, Mother. The word came out stilted, practiced, as if she'd rehearsed it 100 times. I hope I'm not disturbing you. My heart hammered. So hard, I was certain she could hear it through the phone. I gripped the kitchen counter to steady myself, my knuckles white against the chipped formica that had witnessed 3 decades of solitary meals. Serafina. Her name felt foreign on my tongue, like speaking a language I'd forgotten how to use. How did you get this number? The Lottery Commission. They have your contact information on file. A pause that stretched like eternity. Congratulations on your win, by the way. $412 million. That's quite a windfall. There it was. The reason for this miraculous resurrection of my dead daughter's voice. Not love, not longing, not even curiosity about whether I was still breathing. Money, always money. What do you want, Serafina? I want to invite you for Thanksgiving dinner, this Thursday, at my home. Her voice softened with calculated warmth. I think it's time we put the past behind us, don't you? Put the past behind us. As if 30 years of agony could be swept away like crumbs from a table. As if the night she'd screamed that she never wanted to see my face again could be erased with turkey and stuffing. I have grandchildren, Mother, 4 of them. They should know their grandmother. Grandchildren. The word pierced through my chest like a blade. For grandchildren I'd never held, never sung to sleep, never watched take their first steps. For souls who probably thought I was dead, because that was easier than explaining why Grandma had been erased from their lives. Their names? I whispered. Jasper is 22, studying medicine at Yale. Aurora is 19, double majoring in business and law at Harvard. The twins, Orion and Luna, just turned 16. Pride colored her voice as she listed their accomplishments like trophies in a case. They're all honor students, exceptional children. Of course they were. Serafina had always demanded perfection, even as a child. I remembered her, at 8 years old, tearing up drawing after drawing because the crayon lines weren't straight enough, because the colors bled outside the boundaries she'd set for herself. Will you come? She asked, and for just a moment, I heard something vulnerable beneath the polished veneer. Please. I closed my eyes and saw myself at 37, standing in our cramped apartment, watching my 18-year-old daughter pack her entire life into 2 suitcases. She'd gotten into Princeton on a full scholarship, my brilliant, beautiful girl who was going to conquer the world. I'm ashamed of you, she'd said, not looking at me as she folded her clothes with mechanical precision. I'm ashamed of this place, of how we live, of what you've made me into. Serafina, please, I did everything I could. Everything you could. She'd whirled around then, her face twisted with fury and disgust. You work as a janitor, Mother. You clean other people's toilets for a living. Do you know what that makes me? The daughter of a toilet cleaner. Do you know what the other kids say about me? The memory burned like acid in my throat. I'd worked 3 jobs to put food on our table after her father died in that car accident when she was 12. 3 jobs to keep us afloat, to make sure she could focus on her studies instead of worrying about rent or groceries. I'll come, I heard myself say. The address she gave me was in Beacon Hill, Boston's most exclusive neighborhood. I drove my 15-year-old Honda through streets lined with historic brownstones, each one worth more than I'd earned in my entire lifetime. The GPS guided me to a 4-story mansion with a black iron gate and windows that gleamed like diamonds. I sat in my car for 20 minutes staring at this monument to my daughter's success. She'd done exactly what she'd set out to do. She'd escaped the poverty that had defined our lives, the shame of being ordinary, unremarkable, poor. The woman who answered the door was elegant in a way that money couldn't buy, but could certainly refine. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, hair that had never seen the inside of a discount salon. But her eyes were the same storm gray they'd been when she was small, and for a heartbeat, I saw my little girl again. Mother. She stepped aside with practiced grace. You look well. I looked exactly like a 72-year-old woman who'd spent 40 years cleaning office buildings and scrubbing floors. My best dress was 10 years old, bought on clearance from a department store that had since gone out of business. My shoes pinched my feet because I'd had the same pair for 5 years. But I held my head high as I stepped into her marble foyer. Thank you for inviting me. The house was a museum of wealth and taste. Oil paintings in gilt frames, Persian rugs that probably cost more than my annual income, furniture that belonged in magazines. Everything was perfect, cold, untouchable. The family is gathered in the living room, Serafina said, leading me through hallways lined with photographs. I searched desperately for any trace of our shared past, but found only images of her husband, her children, her life that had bloomed after she'd cut me out of it. The living room could have housed my entire apartment. A fire crackled in a fireplace large enough to stand in, and my grandchildren were arranged around it like a scene from a Norman Rockwell painting. Jasper stood when we entered, tall and serious with his father's dark hair and Serafina's sharp intelligence. Aurora was curled in a wingback chair, beautiful and poised even in casual clothes. The twins sat together on a leather sofa, mirror images of each other with golden hair and bright blue eyes. Everyone, Serafina announced, I'd like you to meet your grandmother, Celeste. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched confusion flicker across their faces, saw the questions they were too well-bred to ask aloud. Finally, Jasper cleared his throat. I'm sorry, but I thought... He looked at his mother with troubled eyes. We were told that our grandmother died when we were young. Serafina's composure never wavered. Sometimes families lose touch. Your grandmother has been living abroad for many years. We've only recently reconnected. Abroad, as if I'd been jet-setting through Europe instead of mopping floors in downtown Boston, as if I'd chosen to be absent from their lives instead of being excised like a cancer. How wonderful, said a voice from behind me. I turned to see a distinguished man with silver hair and kind eyes extending his hand. I'm Harrison, Serafina's husband. We're so pleased you could join us. I shook his hand, wondering what lies my daughter had told this man about our family history. Had she painted me as the neglectful mother who'd abandoned her, the embarrassing relative who'd been hidden away until my sudden wealth made me worth acknowledging? Dinner was served in a dining room that could seat 20. The table was set with china, so delicate I was afraid to touch it, crystal glasses that caught the light from the chandelier overhead. Everything was perfect, elegant, and expensive. The conversation flowed around me like water around a stone. Aurora talked about her internship at a prestigious law firm. Orion described his acceptance to early admission at MIT. Luna shared news about her debut at the Boston Symphony's Youth Orchestra. These children, my grandchildren, were everything Serafina had dreamed of becoming. Polished, accomplished, destined for greatness. They spoke of their achievements with casual confidence, the way people do when success has always been expected, never questioned. "And what about you, grandmother?" Luna asked, her voice sweet and curious. "What did you do when you lived abroad?" I met Serafina's eyes across the table and saw the warning there. Don't ruin this. Don't tell them who you really are. I worked in hospitality. I said carefully. It wasn't entirely a lie. Cleaning hotel rooms was technically part of the hospitality industry. "How exciting," Aurora said politely. "Which countries did you live in?" The questions continued, and I found myself weaving a web of half-truths and carefully constructed stories. I spoke of cities I'd only seen in movies, experiences I'd only imagined. All the while, Serafina watched me with the intensity of a hawk watching a mouse. After dinner, she suggested we take coffee in her study. The room was lined with law books. She'd become a corporate attorney just as she'd planned. Diplomas and awards covered the walls, testament to her success. "Thank you," she said as she poured coffee from an expensive silver service. For keeping things pleasant." "You mean for lying to your children about who I am?" Her hand trembled slightly as she set down the coffee pot. "They don't need to know about the past, about how things were, about how poor we were. You mean about how I worked myself to the bone to give you every opportunity. You gave me opportunities, yes, but you also gave me shame." She turned to face me, and for the first time all evening, her mask slipped. "Do you know what it was like, having friends drop me off at our apartment building, seeing their faces when they realized where I lived, the pity in their eyes? I did the best I could. Your best wasn't good enough." The words exploded out of her like a dam bursting. I was 17 years old, mother, 17, and already working 2 jobs just to afford the clothes I needed to fit in at school. Already calculating how much each meal cost, how much every small luxury would set us back. "I never asked you to work. I wanted you to focus on your studies." And I did. I studied until my eyes bled because I knew education was my only way out, my only chance to escape the life you'd trapped us in. Trapped. The word hit me like a physical blow. I never trapped you. I sacrificed everything to give you freedom. "No," she said, her voice cold and measured. "You sacrificed everything to make yourself feel like a martyr. Every missed meal, every extra shift, every penny saved was a chain around my neck, making me responsible for your misery." I stared at this woman who'd once been my whole world, seeing her clearly for the first time. She hadn't just escaped poverty, she'd escaped me. Everything I represented, everything I'd been, was something she'd needed to overcome. "Is that why you called?" I asked quietly. "Because you need something from me?" Her composure cracked slightly. "I called because I thought, after all these years, maybe we could start over." "Start over with my lottery money? You mean—" "That's not—" She stopped, took a breath, and regained control. "Harrison's practice is in trouble. The economy has been difficult for everyone, and we've had to make some hard choices. How much do you need?" The question caught her off guard. She'd expected denials, arguments, emotional manipulation. She hadn't expected me to cut straight to the heart of the matter. $3 million, she said quietly. Jasper's medical school tuition, Aurora's law school, the twins' college funds, the mortgage on this house, Harrison's practice debts. $3 million. I thought about the number. about what it represented. A fraction of my winnings, but a lifetime of security for my daughter and her family. All I had to do was write a check and buy my way back into their lives. And in exchange, I asked, you can be part of our family, part of their lives. You can be the grandmother you always wanted to be. The grandmother who lived abroad for 30 years. The grandmother who's part of the carefully constructed story you've built. The grandmother who helps secure their futures, who makes their dreams possible. I stood slowly, my joints protesting after the long afternoon. Walking to her desk, I found a piece of paper and a pen. Serafina watched me eagerly as I began to write. $3 million, I said, folding the paper carefully. Enough to solve all your problems. She reached for it, but I held it back. Tell me about the night you left, I said. Mother, that was 30 years ago. Tell me about the night you called me a pathetic failure, about how you said I'd ruined your life, that you'd rather die than end up like me. Her face went white. I was young. I was angry. I didn't mean. You meant every word. I held up the paper. You meant it when you said I was an embarrassment. You meant it when you said you were ashamed to be my daughter. You meant it when you said you never wanted to see me again. Please, Mother. And you meant it when you walked out that door and never looked back. When you changed your name from Murphy to some made-up aristocratic nonsense. When you created a whole new history for yourself that didn't include me. Tears were streaming down her face now, cutting tracks through her perfect makeup. I was 18. I was scared. I thought if I could just escape, just become someone else, I could forget how much it hurt to be poor. And did you? Did you forget? No, she whispered. Never. But I built something better. I became someone better. Someone who lies to her children about their family. Someone who pretends her mother is dead rather than admit she came from nothing. I unfolded the paper I'd been holding and showed it to her. It was blank. There is no check, Serafina. There never was going to be a check. Her face crumpled. But the children will learn what I learned. That love doesn't come with conditions. That family isn't something you can buy or sell or trade in for a better model. I walked toward the door, then paused. You know what the saddest part is? I would have given you everything. Not because you needed it, not because you asked for it, but because I loved you, because you were my daughter, and that was enough. Where are you going? To live the life I should have been living for the past 30 years. The life I wasted waiting for you to remember that you had a mother who loved you. I drove away from that perfect house in that perfect neighborhood, and for the first time in decades, I felt free. At the first red light, I pulled out my phone and made a call. Hello, is this the Children's Defense Fund? I'd like to make a donation. $400 million. I want to build homes for children whose parents can't afford to give them everything, but give them love instead. 3 days later, I was packing my small apartment when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a process server holding an envelope. Celeste Murphy, you're being served. I read the papers with growing horror. Serafina had filed a lawsuit claiming I was mentally incompetent, that my decision to give away my lottery winnings proved I was suffering from dementia. She was seeking guardianship over my affairs, power of attorney over my assets. My phone rang. Serafina's voice was now harder, colder, more calculating. You have 24 hours to transfer the remaining funds to an account I'll provide, she said. If you don't, I'll have you declared mentally unfit. My lawyers are confident they can prove you're not capable of managing such a large sum of money. You're threatening me? I'm protecting our family's interests. My children deserve that money more than some random charity. Your children don't even know I exist. They know now. I told them the truth about your condition, about how the lottery, when triggered, some kind of mental breakdown. They're very concerned about their poor, sick grandmother. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. My daughter hadn't just stolen 30 years of my life. Now she was trying to steal what was left of it. Serafina, I said quietly, you've made a terrible mistake. Have I? We'll see about that. Yes, I said, we will, because there's something you don't know about your poor, sick mother. What's that? I used to work nights cleaning the offices of Morrison, Klein and Associates, the law firm where your husband's brother works. The brother who's been embezzling money from Harrison's practice for the past 5 years. The silence on the other end was deafening. I have photographs, I continued, bank statements, email printouts, everything I found while emptying trash cans and cleaning desks over the years. I kept it all, never knowing why. Maybe I was waiting for a day like today. You're lying. Am I? Should we call Detective Rodriguez down at the Financial Crimes Unit? I'm sure he'd be very interested in what I have to show him. Another long silence. What do you want? She asked finally. I want you to withdraw your lawsuit. I want you to leave me alone. And I want you to tell your children the truth about who their grandmother really is. And if I don't, then your husband goes to prison, your family loses everything, and those grandchildren you're so concerned about learn exactly what kind of mother they have. You wouldn't. Try me. I hung up the phone and sat in my empty apartment, surrounded by boxes of memories from a life I'd finally learned to value. Outside, the sun was setting over Boston Harbor, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Tomorrow, I'd start over somewhere new. Maybe I'd buy a little house by the ocean, somewhere I could watch the sunrise every morning and remember that each day was a gift, not a burden to be endured. But tonight, I'd sleep peacefully for the first time in 30 years, knowing that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim anymore. The phone rang one more time. I almost didn't answer it, but something made me pick up. Grandmother. The voice was young, uncertain. Luna, my granddaughter. Mom told us, she told us the truth. About everything. About you. My heart stopped. What did she tell you? That you worked 3 jobs to put her through school. That you sacrificed everything for her. That she was ashamed of you. And that's why she left. The girl's voice broke. She said you were the strongest person she'd ever known, and she was too proud to admit it. I closed my eyes, feeling something shift in my chest. What else did she say? That if you'd still have us, we'd like to know our real grandmother. Not the one who lived abroad, but the one who cleaned toilets and loved our mother enough to let her go. And what do you want, Luna? I want to know the woman who raised the smartest, most successful person I know, even if she can't admit it herself. Through my window, I could see the first stars appearing in the darkening sky, each one a possibility, a chance for something new to begin. Would you like to come for dinner tomorrow? I asked. I don't have much, but I make a mean grilled cheese sandwich. I'd love that, Luna said, and for the first time in 30 years, I heard genuine joy in a voice that shared my bloodline. Maybe some stories do get second chances after all. And that's how I learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't getting revenge. It's finding the courage to value yourself enough to walk away. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that will move you to tears. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Your support means everything to us, and we can't wait to share more unforgettable stories with you.